Today, we're going to be speaking with Mr. Don Plaus. Mr. Plaus graduated from the State University of New York at Albany with a bachelor's degree in economics and business administration. He is the managing director and head of Merrill Private Wealth Management, international and institutional groups at Merrill Lynch Wealth Management. Currently, he manages some of the firm's largest client relationships, both domestically and internationally. Mr. Plaus also received the professional designation of Certified Investment Management Analyst. So, Mr. Plaus, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. Let's get started. First, please tell us about what you do.
Yeah, happy to be with you. And I guess what I'll say is I have the privilege to be the head of Merrill Lynch Private Wealth Management, our international business and our institutional businesses. Just by way of background on what those businesses are, our private wealth management division is a division of 400 or so advisors that service ultra high net worth clients. And, when I think about those advisors and what I think about our value proposition for our clients, it's really about experience and focus and access. For all of them, they go through an accreditation process and they all have tremendous experience and they focus, predominantly and almost exclusively on the ultra high net worth clients. And of course, we have a business that very much supports that. So that's the private wealth division. The international division has 320 advisors. We're an onshore business that serves offshore, meaning that we don't have in our wealth management space bricks and mortar in countries all around the world, but we do service clients from countries all over the world. And so we have tremendous advisors that cover both of those businesses. And then on the institutional side, it's a little bit more of us servicing the needs of companies, whether it's through 401k or retirement plans and like 144 offerings, that type of stuff. So that's kind of I have the privilege of really overseeing those businesses.
So talking about your international accounts, what would you say are the most common countries that you work with, clients in which countries?
Yeah, I'd say, based on, I guess it was 8 or 9 years ago, we sold our offshore business, which was all over the world. And we are, as I mentioned, only servicing offshore relationships. And the areas that we predominantly serve right now is Latin America. So I think you'll see most of the countries of Latin America covered.
Interesting. So what motivated you or inspired you to get into financial consulting?
Okay. That's a great question because I remember, as younger, I came from a pretty modest background. And, I always had an interest in sort of the financial side, not having it. I've worked since I've probably been around 12 years old and doing almost everything from a paper route to cutting grass to, working in restaurants. So I always wanted to contribute at home and make a difference. And when I got into college, good friends of mine had siblings that were on Wall Street. And we went and visited one day. I think it was one of the big financial firms, and I was sort of hooked. It was exciting. There was a lot of energy, and there was the opportunity to really get involved in an area that I had a lot of interest in.
Right. So, what did you do on your journey that led you to where you are now?
Well, I started as a financial advisor. So I started, 34 years ago as a financial advisor, learned the business. Merrill has one of the most wanted training programs for new advisors. And so that's how I started my career, ran a pretty successful practice in 1998. Along the way, I was asked to get more involved in leadership and management while I was still servicing client relationships. And they asked, senior leadership of the firm had asked me to get involved more in management and really give up that aspect of my business and really get involved in leadership. And at Merrill, what that means is you go through an accreditation process and an assessment process, which is a sort of a week-long exercise where they look at how you handle situations, and it's a pass-fail type of situation. So I went through that, was fortunate enough to pass. It also meant that I had to agree that if I passed, within a month or two, I was going to move my family. And so we went from, I was in New York City, we moved down to Greensboro, North Carolina. And one of the things I always tell people that, in leadership, in management, you have to be, flexible and in many instances be ready to move around. And so that's how I really, got started. And I would just say also, I've moved several times. I think I counted 7 times that I, picked up and moved to, various locations. And right now I'm talking to you from Miami, which I wasn't thinking about before I moved down here 6 years ago. So I lived in New York, Greensboro, North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Birmingham, Alabama, back and forth to New York a few times. And then finally, I'm in, Miami now and work also in New York and go back and forth. Yeah.
So what goals did you have when you assumed your current role as managing director, and have you achieved them?
Yeah, so I would say, I don't know that I set goals when I became a managing director. Managing director is a title that you get once you hit, certain levels, within our business. Each role that I've had has required me to do a business plan, really understand, I think anytime that you start something new, you need to, one, sort of get your hands on and understand what you have by way of a business. You need to gather your team and make sure that, sort of everyone's working together. You need to build a plan, and then you really need to, sort of implement it, communicate it, and then look at, making sure that you're, taking that plan and delivering on that plan and measuring it and evaluating it. So in almost every instance and every role that I've had, I've needed to do that.
Wow. Okay. So looking at achievements, how did you achieve the title of Certified Investment Management Analyst?
Oh, that's an accreditation program. And it, requires that you take some math classes. And then I took an extended class over at Wharton. And then I had to pass a 6-hour test. I think it was a 6-hour test.
Wow.
I've had so many of those tests, I don't, I'm not so, I'm pretty certain. It was a pretty rigorous test, and you get your accreditation from it.
Got it. Looking back on your journey, is everything going as planned, or did you make some changes in your choices?
I don't know that I ever planned that this was the way things were going to go. And I guess what I'd say is it's ended up pretty good. Not always, the assignments that I was asked to take on, and the places that I was asked to go weren't always places that I ever thought or planned to go to. But what I learned was each and every one of those places, your career is almost like, watching a home being built, right? Everything starts on a foundation and it just sort of moves up. And so that's kind of the way I felt about my career. I don't know that that I felt like in every instance I knew exactly where things were going to turn out, but it's turned out pretty well overall.
Right. Do you think you could have done anything different on your journey?
I'm sure I could have done a ton of different things. I think, when I think about things that I might have done differently, you can always look back over the course of your career and think about individual situations that have happened to you,
Hmm.
and how you address those situations. I'm a big believer in doing a postmortem on important decisions that were made,
Hmm.
and whether or not those were the right decisions. And that postmortem has served me well in kind of looking back and seeing what things I could have done better.
Right.
So I'm absolutely certain that there were, a number of decisions that, you literally make thousands of decisions, or maybe even over the course of, each role that you're in.
Hmm.
You're going to make some that aren't right. And so I've got, many decisions that I could look back and say, went the right way, but a few that I probably could have done things better.
Right. What are your everyday responsibilities when working, and how have you expanded these responsibilities internationally?
So everyday responsibilities means, essentially the managing and the running of, three very distinct businesses. And it
Hmm.
means that I have three teams that I try to overlap those teams where I can, because I really do think that these three businesses are unique in that they all intersect at our wealthiest clients at
Hmm.
Merrill. And so for me, I need to make sure that as I'm thinking about these businesses, and the running of these businesses, I'm setting, obviously understanding what I have.
Hmm.
Um, so making sure that I understand how the business is being run, making sure from a governance process, I have all of my control partners, risk, legal, compliance, the day-to-day field leadership, all
Hmm.
in sync and working well together, to do what is most important, which is serve our clients at a very high level.
Right. What are some interesting things about your job, and what are some things that you don't like about your job?
Well, the most interesting thing about our job is the clients that we meet.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I, I obviously cannot name names of the clients, but it is a who's who. We have 25 of the Forbes wealthiest. Forbes
Oh.
run a list of the 100 wealthiest people in the world. We have 25 of those are
Wow.
our clients within private wealth, and so it's sort of an honor to be with them. It's an honor to serve them,
Hmm.
and super interesting people that you will meet and work with. I have a client advisory board. It's made up of 35 of our clients that are in private wealth. Um, I'm always amazed at they run successful business and live successful lives, and yet have the time to, on a volunteer basis, really help us with our business. So the clients that we have is absolutely the most interesting thing.
Hmm.
Obviously, I love building teams. So if there was a second thing that I love to do is, surround myself with people that are, bright, intelligent, driven, and want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. So always building high performing teams is something that I really want to be able to do.
Yeah, definitely. So what are three pieces of advice that you would give to high schoolers thinking about entering finance?
Yeah, I think, finance is just an incredible field, and it touches so many businesses, and so many people's lives. I think the first thing is, if you're thinking about getting into it, you sort of have to really dive in.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I would start by, consuming as much as I could by way of, reading Wall Street Journal and other tabloids and books and resources, just to, get yourself familiar with finance. And,
Hmm.
finance has its own language. And, until you sort of immerse yourself in it, it's going to be really hard for you to, have a really good understanding until you've done that. So really making sure that you're doing that. So I would make sure that that was first and foremost. Second thing is, there's a lot of great things to do in this world. Make sure that whatever decision you make, you're passionate about that decision, that's something that you really want to be able to do, and not something that somebody else thinks is a great thing to do. So make sure that you're bringing passion to that. And then the last thing is, particularly in the wealth management space, you have to have a passion for helping people. Our advisors, the best advisors, really understand and communicate really, really well, and help clients achieve their financial goals. And they do so by making things that maybe are technically hard to explain. They have a great way of making it easy to explain. So having an ability to communicate, I think, is really, really important.
Well, thank you so much. For the last question, it seems that you're very passionate about and involved with the New York chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. Can you please tell us more about this?
Yeah, so what a great organization. I got involved because I have two parents that are challenged with dementia. And so just thinking, and I have 5 siblings. And so I really feel like this is something that I wanted to educate myself on better. And it is something that I feel like, if you had to guess if it will have an effect on someone in my family, one of my siblings or myself, I'd say probably odds are probably pretty good that it will. And so I want to educate, I want to help, raise, funds for what I think is, a great charitable organization. And the Alzheimer's group is just tremendous, and they do great work. And, we're making a lot of progress.
Oh, that's amazing. How long have you been working with them?
I got involved with them probably about 5 years ago, which was maybe, my parents are 87, 88. We pretty much became aware of it probably around 7 years ago. So that's when I decided to, get a little bit more involved and understand better as to what things were going on, what things that we're doing to sort of raise awareness around Alzheimer's.
Got it. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for your guidance. It helped a lot, especially with finance and all of the times that you talk about.
Well, happy to be here with you, and thank you. And I wish you and anyone else that's considering a career in this, best of luck, and happy to help with anyone if you have any further questions.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.